First time in days. This is the Barcoat service. Welcome to Congregation Beit Lechem. Our goal is to fulfill the call to guard the commandments of Torah and to have the testimony that Messiah Yehoshua is the Redeemer of Israel. The law of Yahovah. The Torah of Yahovah is perfect, bringing back the being. The witness of Yahovah is trustworthy, making wise the simple. The orders of Yahovah are straight, rejoicing the heart. The command of Yahovah is clear, enlightening the eyes. Blessed is this man who shall not walk in the counsel of the wrong, and shall not stand in the path of sinners, and shall not sit in the seat of scoffers. His delight is in the Torah,
and he meditates in his Torah day and night.
For he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prospers. Wind blows away. For this command which I am commanding you today, it is not too hard for you, nor is it far off.
For the word is very near you, in your mouth, in your heart to do it.
For truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah, till all be done.
Whoever then breaks one of these commandments, and teaches them so, shall be called least in the reign of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reign of heaven.
It is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one tittle of the Torah to fail.
Do we then nullify the Torah through belief? Let it not be. On the contrary, we establish the Torah.
So that the righteousness of the Torah should be completed in us, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu chadavar hakaim b'Mashiach Yehoshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who gives us the living word in Messiah Yehoshua. Amen. This is Tehillim 30 or Psalms 30. A psalm. A song for the inauguration of the temple by David. I will exalt you, Yahweh, for you have drawn me up and not let my foes rejoice over me.
Yahovah, my Elohim, I cried out to you and you healed me.
Yahovah, you have raised my soul from the lower world. You have preserved me from my descent to the pit.
Make music to Yahovah, his devout ones, and give thanks to his holy name.
For his anger endures but a moment, but life results from his favor. In the evening one lies down weeping, but with dawn a cry for joy.
I said my sincerity, I will not falter.
But Yahovah, all is through your favor. You supported my greatness with might. Should you but conceal your face, I would be confounded.
To you, O Yahovah, I would call, and to my Adonai I would appeal.
What gain is there in my death? When I descend to the pit, will the dust acknowledge you? Will it declare your truth?
Hear, O Yahovah, and favor me. Yahovah, be my helper.
You have changed me from my lament into dancing. You undid my sackcloth and girded me with gladness.
So that my soul might make music to you and not be still. O Yahovah, my Elohim, forever I will thank you.
That's a good praise. The Barku service. Blessed is Yahovah, the Blessed One.
Blessed is Yahovah, the Blessed One, for all eternity.
Baruchu et Yahovah Chamavarak, Baruch Yahovah Chamavarak Leolam Vayed. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
6 days shall you labor and do all your work.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahovah, your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work.
For in 6
days
days
Yahovah made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. That is why Yahovah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, Above all my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahovah who sanctifies you.
If you
do turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my set-apart day, and shall call the Sabbath a delight, the set-apart day of Yahovah esteemed, and shall esteem it, not doing your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in Yahovah, and I shall cause you to ride on the heights of the earth, and feed you with the inheritance of Yaakov your father. For the mouth of Yahovah has spoken. And that's from Yeshayahu 58 or Isaiah 58. Will you all please stand for the Messiah prayer?
I don't know where it's at.
It's a little out of order, but we're good.
We can still bless him.
Yeah, we'll do both. Blessed are you, Yahovah, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua.
He
You walked among us filled with your Spirit, the only one who ever fulfilled your Torah perfectly.
He healed the sick and raised the dead. The multitudes of our people sought his touch.
He taught as no other man taught, bringing forth the treasures of Torah with authority.
How the children sought him, the lepers he touched and made clean.
How the despised and outcast found love and release from their sins. How the hypocrites feared him whose words uncovered their sins.
Despised and rejected, acquainted with grief, he bore the sins of Israel.
All of us, like sheep, went astray, turned everyone to his own way.
Our iniquities were laid upon our king. The sins of this world became his burden to bear.
He rose from the dead and opened the way to life everlasting. Praise be to his name.
We are in him, his spirit empowers. New life is ours with joy and peace. Baruch atah Yahovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher natah lanu et derech hayashia b'Mashiach Yehoshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahovah Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua. Amen. And before we do that really quick, let's do the blessing over the children.
Yes.
So if we can get some fellas. Two more fellas. One more fella. All right. I see Danny stepping up. The blessing of our sons. Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chim Manasseh. May Elohim make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. And over our daughters. Yisimech Elohim ke'Sarah v'cha Rachel v'Leah. May Elohim make you as Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Father Yahweh, thank you so much for this day, for the children and the families that are represented here. I ask that you just bring a blessing on them, that you implant the word in their hearts now as they're young, so that when they're old, they know always to call on you and always to fall back on your word. Praise you and thank you for each of the families that are represented here with these children. In your name, Yehovah, amen.
Amen.
And if you'll stand for the blessing of Shema. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei chosek oseh shalom uvarei ra. Blessed are you, Yehovah Elohim, King of the universe, who forms light and creates darkness, makes peace and creates evil. Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, Yahovah Eloheinu, Yahovah is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. Vahavta et Yahovah Elohecha B'kol lavacha uv'kol nafshaka uv'kol mo'edeka. V'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher hanokim matzat v'ka hayom alaveka. V'shin nantam lavaneka. V'did barkam bam deshiftika. V'betekaka ulektaka vat-derek. Uk shak baka uk komeka. Uk shak tam leo aliadeka. V'hayu lato afom bain aneka. Uk tam al mazuzo beiteka uvisharacha. And you shall love Yahovah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you arise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hands, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. V'havta le'recha kamoka. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Amen. And that concludes the barcode service. And now we'll be moving to our Torah service. Oh, you may be seated.
Where for the Torah service, there is to be one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. If you join me in the Ein Kamocha. Ein Kamocha v'Elohim Yehovah v'yein k'mashecha machucha machucho lamin ומשבתך בכל דור ודור יהובה המלך יהובה המלך יהובה ימלוא לעולם ועד יהובה עוז לעמוד ייתן יהובה יברך את עמו בשלום. There is none like you among the gods, Jehovah, and there is nothing like your works. Your kingdom is a kingdom throughout all generations, and your dominion is forever. Jehovah reigns, Jehovah has reigned, Jehovah will reign forever and ever. Jehovah will give strength to his people, Jehovah will bless his people with peace. And now for the Bahi Bin Soharon. Ba'i Soharon Be'omer Moshe Kuma Yehovah Be'yafuzu oivecha Be'yanusu mesanecha mepanecha Ki mision Teze Torah Ki mizion Teze Torah Udevar Yehovah Mi'Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Israel, B'Yedushuato. When the ark will travel, Moshe will say, Arise, Jehovah, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee from you. For the Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Jehovah from Jerusalem. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his homeland. Amen.
Amen.
May the Father of compassion have mercy on the nation that is born by him.
Is it on? Yes, it is on now. May the Father of compassion have mercy on the nation that is born by him, and may he remember the covenant of the spiritually mighty. May he rescue our souls from the bad times and upright the evil inclination to lead those born by him. Graciously make us an eternal remnant and fulfill our requests in good measure for salvation and mercy. May he help, shield, and save all who take refuge in him. Lord, let us respond. Amen. All of you ascribe greatness to our Elohim and give honor to the Torah. Arise, Danny ben Abraham, an Israelite, and come to the Bima to read from the Torah. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his holiness.
The Barku et Yehovah Hamvarag. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Yehovah
Noten HaTorah.
Noten HaTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the Torah. The Torah portion this morning is Bereshith, or Genesis, chapter 27, verses 32 through 28:7. And the maftir is the next two verses, 8 and 9. And his father Yitzchak said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Yitzchak trembled exceedingly and said, Who was it then who hunted wild game and brought it to me? And I ate all of it before you came. And I have blessed him. Yes, he is blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, Bless me too, O my father. And he said, Your brother came with deceit and took your blessing. And Esau said, Was his name then called Jacob? For he has caught me by the heel these 2 times. He took my birthright, and see, now he has taken my blessing. And he said, Have you not reserved a blessing for me? Then Yitzchak answered and said to Esau, See, I have made him your master, and all his brothers I have given to him as servants, and I have sustained him with grain and wine. And what then shall I do for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, Have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Yitzchak his father answered and said to him, See, your dwelling is of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of the heavens from above. And by your sword you are to live, and serve your brother. And it shall be, when you grow restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father draw near. Then I am going to kill my brother Jacob. And the words of Esau, her older son, were reported to Ribkah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, See, your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you, to kill you. And now, my son, listen to my voice, and rise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a few days until your brother's wrath turns away, until your brother's displeasure turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. And I shall send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved of you both in one day? And Ribkah said to Yitzchak, I am disgusted with my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth, like these who are the daughters of the land, what is my life to me? And Yitzchak called Yaakov and blessed him, and commanded him, and said to him, Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife for yourself from there, from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And El Shaddai bless you, and make you fruitful, and increase you, and you shall become an assembly of peoples, and give you the blessings of Abraham, to you and to your seed with you, so that you inherit the land of your sojourning, which Elohim gave to Abraham. So Yitzchak sent Yaakov away, and he went to Padanaram to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Ribkah, the mother of Yaakov and Esau. And Esau saw that Yitzchak had blessed Yaakov, and sent him away to Padanaram to take himself a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a command, saying, Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Yaakov had obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to and the sister of Naboth to be his wife, besides the wives he had. The closing Torah blessing. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tukenu. Baruch atah Yehovah. Noten HaTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the Torah.
He who blesses our forefathers Abraham, Yitzchak, and Jacob, may he bless Danny ben Abraham, because he has come up to read from the Torah in honor of Yahweh and his word. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and prosperity in his every endeavor, together with all Israel his brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. If you join us on the Vesol HaTorah, Vesol HaTorah, Asher Sham Moshe, Livnei Bnei Israel, Apeh Yehovah, Via Moshe. And this is the Torah that Moshe placed before the children of Israel at the command of Yehovah through Moshe's hand. Return, O Yehovah, to the countless thousand of Israel. Amen. You may be seated. Now we'd like to call Paul ben Abraham to read from the Haftorah. If you please join me in the opening Haftorah blessing. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar Bimin tovin verazav Ibrahim anemarin veme Baruch atah Yehovah Habocher b'Torah uMoshe abdo uMisrael amo uBimyehamen vazedech. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has selected good prophets and was pleased with their words which were spoken truthfully. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who chooses the Torah, your servant Moshe, your people Israel, and prophet of truth and righteousness.
The Haftarah is Malachi chapter 1 through 2:7. The message of the word of Yahweh Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, said Yahweh, but you asked, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, declares Yahweh, and I love Jacob. But I have hated Esau, and I have laid waste his mountains and his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness. If Edom says, we have been beaten down, let us return and build the ruins. Yahweh of hosts said thus, let them build, but I tear down. And they shall be called border of wrongness, and the people against whom Yahweh is enraged forever. And your eyes shall see, and you shall say, great is Yahweh beyond the border of Israel. A son esteems his father, and a servant his master. And if I am the father, where is my esteem? And if I am a master, where is my fear? Said Yahweh of hosts to you priests who despise my name. But you asked, and what have we despised your name? You are presenting defiled food on my slaughter place. But you asked, in what way have we defiled you? Because you say, the table of Yahweh is despicable. And when you present the blind as a slaughtering, is it not evil? And when you present the lame and sick, is it not evil? Bring it then to your governor. Would he be pleased with you? Would he accept you favorably? Said Yahweh of hosts. And now entreat the face of El to show favor to us. This has been done by your hands. Would he show favor to you? Said Yahweh of hosts. Who among you who would shut the doors so that he would not kindle fire on my slaughter place for naught? I have no pleasure in you, said Yahweh of hosts, nor do I accept an offering from your hands. For from the rising of the sun and even to its going down, my name is great among nations. And in every place incense is presented to my name, and a clean offering, for my name is great among nations, says Yahweh of hosts. But you are profaning me, in that you say, the table of Yahweh is defiled, and its food is despicable. And you said, oh, what weariness, and you sneered at it, and Yahweh of hosts. And you brought in plunder, and the lame and the sick. Thus you have brought in the offering. Should I accept this from your hand, said Yahweh? But cursed be the deceiver, who has a male in his flock, and makes a vow, but is slaughtering to Yahweh what is blemished. For I am a great sovereign, said Yahweh of hosts, and my name is feared among nations. And now, O priests, this command is for you. If you do not hear, and if you do not take it to heart, to give esteem to my name, said Yahweh of hosts, I shall send a curse upon you, and I shall curse your blessings. And indeed I have cursed them, because you do not take it to heart. See, I shall rebuke your seed, and scatter dung before your faces, the dung of your festivals, and you shall be taken away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this command to you, as being my covenant with Levi, said Yahweh of hosts. My covenant with him was life and peace. And I gave them to him to fear, and he feared me, and stood in awe of my name. The Torah of truth was in his mouth, and unrighteousness was not found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and straightness, and turned away from crookedness. For the lips of the priest should guard knowledge, and they seek the Torah from his mouth. For he is the messenger of Yahweh of hosts.
Amen. If you join us for the closing Haftarah blessing, Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam Sor kol halamin Tzaddik v'chol hadorot Ha'el haneman Ha'omer ve'oseh Handavar u'chayam Shekol devaraha Emet v'tzedek Ne'eman Atahu Yehovah Eloheinu V'nemarin devarecha V'levarvecha v'yivarecha Achor lo yashurecham Ki el hanemaran V'rachaman ata Baruch ata Yehovah Ha'el haneman V'chol devaraha. Blessed are you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, Rock of all eternities, faithful in all generations, who says and does, who speaks and makes it come to pass, all whose words are truth and righteous. Faithful are you, Jehovah our Elohim, and faithful are your words. For not one word of yours is turned back unfulfilled, for you are a faithful El and King. Blessed are you, Jehovah, the Elohim, who is faithful in all his word. He who blessed our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Paul ben Abraham, because he has come out to read from the Haftorah. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him from every illness, and may he send blessing and success in his every endeavor, together with all Israel his brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. Now I would like to call Olivia but Abraham to read from the second writings. If you join us on the opening blessing for the second writings. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua Behakatuvin shel hatalmidin Baruch atah Yehovah Notei habrich haTorah. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us Messiah Yehoshua and the writings of the Talmudim. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the covenant of the Torah.
Okay, we're going to be in Romans 1, 9 through 13. I speak the truth of Messiah, I do not lie, my conscience also bearing me witness in the set-apart spirit, that I have great sadness and continual grief in my heart. For I myself could have wished to be banished from Messiah for the sake of my brothers, my relatives according to the flesh, who are the children of Israel, to whom is the adoption, and the esteem, and the covenants, and the giving of the Torah, and the worship, and the promises, whose are the fathers, and from whom is the Messiah according to the flesh, who is over all, Elohim blessed forever. Amen. However, it is not as though the word of Elohim has failed, for they are not all Israel who are of Israel, neither are they all children because they are the seed of Abraham, but in Isaac your seed shall be called. That is, those who are the children of the flesh, those are not the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are reckoned as the seed. For this is the word of promise, at this time I shall come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only so, but Rebekah having conceived by one, our father Isaac, yet before they were born or had done any good or evil, in order that the purpose of Elohim according to the choice might stand, not of works but of him who calls. It was said to her, the greater shall serve the lesser. As it has been written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated.
Amen. If you join us for the closing blessing for the second writings. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu hadavar hameh V'chaye olam nata v'tochenu Baruch atah Yehovah Asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua B'chakatuvim hatalmidim. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the word of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Jehovah, who has given us Messiah and the writings of the Talmudim. He who blessed our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, May he bless Olivia about Abraham, because she have come up to read from the second writings in honor of Messiah and his teachings. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect her and rescue her from every trouble and distress, from every plague or illness, and may he send blessing and success in her every endeavor, together with all Israel her brethren. Now let her respond. Amen. If you join us for Eschaying He, as we return the Torah scroll to the ark. Eschaying He למחזיקים בה וטוב בעמיה ושאר דרכיה דרכי נועד וכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו יהובה אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם. It is a tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. Its ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back, Jehovah, to you, and we shall come. Renew our days as of old. Amen. You may be seated, and this concludes the Torah service. And Blair has a mini midrash.
Completely terrified, so y'all just wing it with me. Okay. I'm gonna kind of read my notes because that's just gonna keep me from losing my marbles up here. So, okay. So for a very long time, I've really pushed the idea of actually sharing because I never really felt good enough. I kind of felt like I was good at that I wasn't good at connecting scripture with a topic. So, and I always felt like everybody here knew more than me, or could figure it all out better than me. And then I say, I felt like everybody here really knew a lot more than me. But you know, look who I'm married to. Call him my scripture Rolodex. For young people, you don't know what Rolodexes are, so don't worry about it. However, the only way that I really know how to defeat the lies of you'll mess up or you don't know as much as everybody else here does, or even are you really who you even say you are, is really just to push myself to do things that I've never really done. That's right. So I've battled and I continue to battle this horrible, terrible mental disease of depression, and I'm at a point in my life where all I can really do is stand on the promise that he's made to me that I belong to him and that he belongs to me. So taking a few moments to share on this Parsha is really me stomping on the face of the adversary and filling my head with the promises of his return. So, I feel good. I like that. This Parsha couldn't help but remind me of losing my dad last year. I couldn't help but think about Esau and Yaakov actually watching their father, who was an actual patriarch, die. I find it a common theme throughout this Parsha regarding a lot of father-son, children relationships, and I kind of have a little idea what that's like. I laughed. My favorite part is I laughed when I read the part about Isaac smelling Yaakov right before blessing him. He said, "See, the smell of my son is like the smell of the field." Let me just tell you, I really wondered how that was, because the only smell of the field I ever smell on my children is that of dirt and sweat from a baseball field. I mean, my kids don't always smell the greatest, but as a mom, I think about the fact of how I know my children. My heart doesn't feel the same when they're not under the same roof as me. I wake the instant they wake up in bed. I hear the faintest of sounds and the faintest of smells. Elias often wonders how I know everything. And the truth is that I actually have eyes on the back of my head. Right, Elias? So y'all know the story. So Rivka actually, she overheard Isaac talking to Esau, telling him to hunt and prepare a meal for him as he was growing ill and his days were near. Esau probably didn't know that his brother had already sold his birthright to Yaakov previously, but he knew that he needed to bless his son, and therefore he sent him off to hunt. Rivka tells Yaakov, whom she loved, what she heard, and planned a trick to allow Yaakov to receive the blessing. We know the story. Rivka dresses Yaakov in Esau's clothes and prepares the meal. Esau gives the blessing to Yaakov. Esau returns home from his hunt, and he cries out, begging for a portion of his father's blessing. We have Rivka telling Yaakov to leave and stay with her brother because Esau claims that he's going to kill him. And so she sent him off there until he cooled his jets. The story ends with Rivka being worried that Yaakov would go and find a wife from the daughters of Heth. But after talking to Esau about it, Esau calls for Yaakov and asks him not to marry marry a daughter of Heth, but to actually marry a daughter of Laban. Being a mom myself, I can't help but wonder how Rivka could have a favorite son, and Esau had his too. I mean, maybe it wasn't like that really at all. Yaakov was this sweet little mommy's boy, but Esau had a skill in hunting that pleased his father. I guess in my family I lost out. We say Asher is the mommy's boy only because he plays with my hair and it's his security blanket. But both my boys can swing a bat, and we all know that this brings pleasure to my husband. But the thing was, Esau may not have taken this blessing and used it to fulfill the glory of Elohim. So we read in Malachi that if you don't listen and take heart to the blessing that he's given you, then he is going to curse those blessings. And maybe that's exactly what would have happened if Esau had taken that blessing. It's quite possible that Yehovah's name would not have been glorified. In our second writings portion, verse 8, this was in Romans, it tells us that it is not the children of the flesh who are the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are regarded as descendants. The common theme that I see is that God is in control, Elohim is in control. What if what I experience and battle each day is that of verse 23, just so that he would be known the riches of his glory upon the vessels of mercy, he prepared beforehand for glory. And in verse 24, even us, whom he has called not from among Jews, but also from Gentiles. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
That was great, Blair. Thank you. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Guten Shabbos, John. It's a pleasure to be up here again. This is such a task to undertake when you do a midrash, and it's really fun to be able to dig in and bring some things out. And like Blair said, there's so many knowledgeable people here. So really just sticking to the word and what our Father says seems to be the best bet. We want to talk about him and our Messiah and just what he requires of us. So this is Parsha Toldot, and it's chapter 25:19 through 28:9. And remember last time I was up, we talked about Parsha breaks. Did anybody ever attempt to do a Parsha break? Does anybody know how many this Parsha has in it? There is, so to review again, the open portion, it's a break in the Torah scroll that's open to the end of the line, and it's what we consider like a paragraph. And it's, I still can't pronounce this right, Patuach. All right, we'll go with that. But with the P, you think of a paragraph, and it's a major thought or division. If there's just a space in the Torah line, and it's just a blank space in the line of the text, it's a setumach. Thank you, Paul. And it's a minor thought or subdivision in the major divisions. But out of this 3 chapters, basically, there's only 4 breaks in the whole thing. There's a major one, all the rest of chapter 25. At the end of, 25, at the end of 26, 33, there's a small break. 26:35, there's a small break, and then all the way to the end of the chapter. So there's really just some major themes running through this with a couple of thoughts thrown in. Toldot is translated as genealogy. It also means generations, and the root is a yod, a lamed, and a dalet, which means to give birth or bring a child from the womb. And I took some examples of where we find that. Bereshith, Genesis 41:50, and to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of scarcity came. That's the root word yaled there, or yeled. In Shemot, Exodus 21:4, if his master has given him a wife and she has borne him sons or daughters. Same thing, that's the root word there. And then Tehillim, Psalms 90, verse 2, before the mountains were born, or you had brought forth the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are El. This is to kind of just show some of the context. It's the same concept of bringing something forth, but it's also used not strictly for physical descendants or fleshly things that are born. This is the Father creating the world. In 25:19, it starts out, and this is the genealogy of Yitzchak, Abraham's son. Abraham brought forth Yitzchak. In Hebrew, it says, Ve'ela Toldot Yitzchak ben Abraham, Abraham holid et Yitzchak. The 2 words there, they're a little more bold. The Toldot and the holid are both the root word with the yod, lamed, dalet. And I think it's really neat with Hebrew. It's a very poetic language. We don't get to see this in English, but there's a lot of repetition, a lot of rhyming, and those root words, being a native Hebrew speaker, you would be able to recognize that a lot better than we can. But it's really neat. I wanted to show you how the importance is placed on Abraham. He is the first patriarch and the original recipient of the Berakah, the choice, Yehovah's designation for him and his seed to be his nation in his land. So this Berakah, the choice, it's Yehovah choosing his plan. That's what he wants for his people. And he's called Abraham and going to give this to him. So this is strictly like it was mentioned in Romans. It's through the seed, not just the physical descendants. And it also has a lot to do with the land. It's a real important. This is the blessing of the seed and the land. And this is a free will choice of the Father of who he bestows it on. Zerah va'aretz. That's the kind of the phrase that is used with that seed and land blessing. And this is where we find it. I'm going to flip to these real quick. This is all out of Genesis 12:7. And Yehovah appeared to Abram and said, to your seed I give this land. And he built there a slaughter place to Yehovah who had appeared to him. In 13:15, for all the land which you see I shall give to you and your seed forever. 15:18. On the same day Yehovah made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river of Euphrates. And then in 17:8 also. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their Elohim. And Elohim said to Abraham, as for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout your generations. So there's an expectation he has when he is giving this promise. And it is to guard his covenant. It's spelled out in Scripture. It's spelled out in his word, what's required of us, what he wants us to do. And there's a promise that comes with it. This is the promise. That's our idea, too. I mean, obviously, we want to make it to the millennial kingdom, be in the land with the Messiah for eternity, for the rest of it, for whatever comes next. The name Yitzchak means he laughs, and this is getting back to the Torah portion in 25. So the meaning of it is he laughs. In 21:2-7, it says here, so Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, and at the appointed time of which Elohim had spoken to him, and Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him Yitzchak. And Abraham circumcised his son Yitzchak when he was 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Yitzchak was born to him. And Sarah said, Elohim has made me laugh, and everyone who hears of it laughs with me. And she said, who would have said that Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, for I have borne him a son in his old age. This is just backing up to chapter 21, and here Sarah is saying, Elohim has made me laugh, but the definition seems to be, he laughed. And if we keep looking, I just thought this is interesting, and in Genesis 18, 12 and 15, again, and Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my master being old too? But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. And this is kind of what I want to compare this to. The he laughs seems to come from Abraham. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed. This is 17 and 19. And he said in his heart, is a child born to man who is 100 years old, or is Sarah who is 90 years old to bear a child? And Elohim said, no, Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yitzchak, and I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed for after him. And you can see here, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. There's kind of a dichotomy going on here with Sarah laughed, and she was confronted about it. She's kind of owned up to it later on in chapter 21, and that's why she has a son, and that's what his name is Yitzchak. But it really seems to stem from Abraham laughing, if his name means he laughed. It's just one of those things you kind of pick out. There's so much details in these Torah portions when you're studying through them. And me, I do artwork, and I'm extremely detail-orientated. So sometimes the way I see a picture is looking at all the details. So that's what we're just kind of going through here and doing. And now here, because of what Abraham, or what Yahovah just told Abraham, we see the selection process. Yitzchak was chosen. His first son, Yishmael, which means El will hear, this is what was told to him in 1720. And is for Yishmael, I have heard you. See right there, the name is what's going on. In Hebrew, it's real interesting how the character and what happens in someone's life, they're named that way, to kind of give you insight into their being. But as for Yishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall bless him and shall make him fruitful and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. So there is a blessing involved with him, but it's not the brakah. It's not the blessing of the land through the seed and the land that's going to inherit the land. There is a distinction between the covenant with the seed and the promised land and blessings of prosperity. This is a prosperity blessings. He's able to gain prosperity through his blessings from the Father, but it's not the one that the Father is promising his chosen people, the remnant. Now that Yitzchak is chosen, he also has to wait on Yahovah to fulfill the promise of his seed. It's saying here, we made it to the second line in the in the parsha. And Yitzchak was 40 years old when he took Rivkah his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padam Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean. But she's going to be barren. There's a lot of details. I mean, hopefully we've all read this story. If you're lucky enough to be doing this a few years now, you know a lot of these details and that. So I'm just trying to pick out some of the things that I'm not hitting every single summary of the story because there's so much in it, and so this is just what I decided to pick out of this. But in 25:21, it's saying he prayed to and answered his prayer. And Yitzchak prayed to Yahovah for his wife because she was barren, and Yahovah answered his prayer, and Rivkah his wife conceived. Again, in the Hebrew, in the poetic sense, it's vayatar and vayatar. And it means entreated, pressing strongly to a goal. When we read later, it's 20 years later when those children are conceived. So our mindset, I think, has a hard time understanding to how would you press strongly towards a goal for 20 years, assuming and expecting the desired outcome. I mean, without faith, he was assured that this is what he was promised. He's going to have generations flowing from him. But he had to wait and to not waver and to not lose faith. I think it's such a good lesson for us to how what small challenges we're presented with, how we get through them, and to look to the Father who is, his word will not return to him unfulfilled. In 25:22, and within her the children struggled together, and she said, "If all is right, why am I this way?" So she went to ask Yahovah. That word struggled, vayit rozah zu, means to crush or to bruise. Those two people in her struggling, that battle that's going on, meaning to crush or to bruise, kind of reminds us of Genesis 3:15, where the first messianic prophecy comes from. He shall bruise his head, crush his heel. Yeah, I know it so well I can't say it. There you go. Bruise his heel, crush his head. And I put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, and you shall crush his heel. That's why it sounded different in my head. But that's the crushing and the bruising, that battle that's going on. Now again, this is still that process of the blessing from the Father, who he wants, what the lineage that he is picking. There's a selection process going on here. Yahovah reveals to her the outcome of this selection process, with the two forces inside her being separate nations. He actually tells her that 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 people shall be separated from your body, and 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older serve the younger. So he's kind of giving her the finish of what's going to happen, but she's still in the process of just having 2 children in her womb, battling it out. And that word there, I get the nations part is actually ushani, 2 manner of people, and the definition is to change and to repeat. I think there's a lot that you could unpack in that, but the changing and the repeating, as 2 separate nations side by side struggling and vying for who's going to be first, there's a lot to deal with, and a lot to for her to absorb, to understand what is really going on, that it's not just 2 children. It's the idea of these 2 forces battling each other. And they're twins. So, in 25:25, now we get to Yitzchak's children. This is where it talks about how old he was. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, so they called his name Esau. The first came out, it's actually Admoni, and it means red like Adam. And there's a lot of symbolism here when you start seeing what they're named, the behavior that they're doing, and it kind of starts being reminiscent of a story we've already heard of this. You can kind of see this battle that's being hinted at, I guess. The word hairy there, sa'ar, it means to be coarse or rough or to storm against. Again, all these words have root words, and then all these meanings are tied to that root word that branch off and give us the vocabulary of the Hebrew language. But that hairy, sa'ar, is, you can kind of see the correlation there. Something coarse, hairy, to be rough, to storm against. I mean, if there was something smooth and it's storming against, you can see these, something sprouting up. It all resembles each other. And the garment, root, adar, is a mantle, a robe, glory, splendid, great. So like a hairy garment, I mean, when you can kind of see what that's hinting at and alluding to when those two are put together, this is an example of the garment. As an example of that use, Ezekiel 17:8, it was planted in a good field by many waters to bring forth branches and to bear fruit, to be a splendid vine. That's the same root as the word garment there, the adar. And I'm just, we're told, and I think we read right over it, we think of a little furry kid, I guess, this hairy garment. But is it really talking about his character? Is it his nature? Was it something that was so obvious about him, his disposition, and this aggressiveness? Was that what was just completely noticeable between the two children, although he was the first one to emerge? So they called his name Esau, Edom, Adam, from his red appearance. And that's what I mean. So now even his nickname is becoming this redness, which hints back at the first Adam. Yeah, John?
King David was born also ready as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Esau was born ragged, and it denotes probably ungodly person. Why wasn't that attributed to David when he was born ruddy, I should say?
Sure. He was a man after Jehovah's own heart.
Right.
So there's even though, just like it's saying, not whatever that was saying in Romans, not all of the physical descendants are that, and same thing, it's an internal choice in a battle within ourselves that's what's going to kind of be laid out here, is that you might be given circumstances when you're born, but I don't believe in predestination. I think we all have free will and choice, and for whatever reasons, what is it, Yetzer Hara, either the evil inclination or the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, there's the which one do you feed more? Which one are you going to become more aggressive because something upsets you and you feed that aggression, or are you going to become listening to the Father and doing what He wants and controlling those urges that is spelled out that we are to do, to learn to live as a nation? I mean, Torah is so wonderful because it's so intimate and involves you on such a personal level, but we are a nation of people, and that's the key that I think we need to remember as we are learning this. We are learning this, it's not me and the Father, in eternity. It's His people, His nation that He is bringing out, and He wants that family as big as it can be, and that's the battle right now, is to reach those wicked, to let them know there's hope, there's a purpose to this life. It's not just the physical side, which Esau represents. It's a lot more of the spiritual. We know is so much more true than the physical, but we're trapped in this physical existence right now. It's been said, are we a soul that has a body, or are you a body with a soul? And just thinking about those two things, there's a difference. So I say it was up to personal choice with them. And because of the insight of the writers of the Torah and Scripture, they hinted at what was going to happen. These are written in hindsight, I guess.
I don't see it. About David.
I thought it was in 1 Samuel 15 or something like that. Can't remember.
It was a pretty boy.
Yeah.
But Adam was red.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, we are in a Western mindset. To really have that Hebrew mindset, we're reading this with Opie, freckles and red hair is what we think of. But who knows what it really meant back then. And because of if it truly was that appearance, where does that gene come from? How striking were those people in a Semitic group that all had dark hair and olive skin? And, they would have really stood out. There really would have been something noticeable and different, So, there's a lot of things, but it's all guessing, which isn't good to do with Scripture. Stick to what's written. So in here, this is the contrast to Yaakov, who emerged holding the heel. And when it says he came out holding heel, it's Ba'akev, and he was called Yaakov. Again, this poetry that you find in the Hebrew language. But also, it was an action. He was holding the heel. And then this alludes to his behavior as an adult growing up, some of the stuff that's hinted at in these stories and what we get to understand. It says here, Esau knew how to hunt, Zaid. The definition of Zaid, and I like to use the etymological dictionary. What it has is the main definition for Zaid is to wander in desolate places. Yaakov, it says, was complete, tam, whole. Who Yoshev dwelt. You can think of like sitting Sheva, that's sitting for the 7 days. There's it's interesting how related all these words are. But that Yoshev means to dwell, inhabit, sit down, and even as a judge. So right there's a difference. Is he judging, himself first before he's in the position to judge others? Is he weighing his own character and controlling those emotions and the behavior that is not accepted by the Father? That as a nation, we don't want to live around people who don't encourage and grow and develop in unity with each other. You don't want to, the other people, they're the ones that are hard to get along with. We had an example of that today. It was, I don't know how to get along with somebody like that. And you try, and then you pray for them, I guess. Yitzchak loved Esau, while Rivka loved Yaakov. And I'm going to jump over to Malachi for this. This is the Haftorah portion. I have loved you, said Yahovah, but you asked, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Yaakov's brother, declares Yahovah, and I love Yaakov, but I have hated Esau. And we know in the Hebrew mindset, hated means to reject. Love is to accept, hate is to reject. Declares, hated Esau, and have laid waste his mountains and his inheritance from the jackals of the wilderness. Yitzchak loved because of what he received, what he ate. The word of Yahovah to Yisrael through his messenger is reasoned by action of character, not the physical. So the difference is, it's like looking at the inward heart here. Yitzchak is saying, when you back up and look at what's saying here in the chapter, he loved his hunting, he loved his venison, he loved the wild game, he loved the physicalness that received pleasure by the actions of Esau. Rivka maybe knew, there's a question in the debate of whether Yitzchak knew the prophecy that was told to her with the two nations battling. It's not, whether he did or didn't, it's not spelled out, we don't know. But Rivka was privy to that, and she loved Yaakov. She must have seen the difference and seen the character and understood the value of a more controlled nature. This I heard recently, and I find myself thinking about it and wanting to express it to people who, there's an entire church world we've come out of. There's people out there that with all their hearts and their understanding, they believe a title of the Creator, but to get them to go to a deeper level. God becomes God when you become the person He wants you to be. And unless you're familiar with His Word and studying His Word, it gets personal. And I think that's what it is for people. People are comfortable. They want to live their lives. My job pays a lot. I couldn't possibly not work on the Sabbath. There's a lot of considerations that the world flaunts in front of them, us in our past, that your heart starts to break for what they're missing out on. But when you can really become the person He wants you to be, when you have an ear for the Torah and what it's instructing you about, God is really becoming God in your life. You're really submitting and laying down your life to Him. We're told we are to be priests of our homes. Oh, that's supposed to be listen. You had some typos. I didn't go back. We are to be priests of our homes, so listen to what He has to say. And then this is Malachi 2, 1 through 7. You can turn there, or look, I did it for us. And now, O priests, this command is for you. Now again, we're to be priests of our home. If you do not hear, and if you do not take it to heart, to give esteem to my name, which is why it's so important to learn His name, to go beyond the title that the world has taught us about, get more personal with the Father. Said Yahovah of hosts, I shall send a curse upon you, and I shall curse your blessings, and indeed, Blair talked about all this, and indeed I have cursed them, because you do not take it to heart. See, I rebuke your seed and scatter dung before your faces, the dung of your festivals. As I'm reading that, how much do we appreciate the worldly holidays that are celebrated now? It really is offensive because we know what the Father wants. We know where those come from. And just having to get through ghouls and goblins and not, trunk or treat, and people thinking they're doing something good because we'll just rename it for a fall festival. It stinks. Same with the next one that's coming up. That's a major festival. That was probably one of the harder ones for us to let go until we really started understanding. And then it's offensive now. Not for the people, but for the misunderstanding. And for the Father, you really want to reach out to Him and explain His position to people. We are His voice. And you shall be, this is the dung of your festivals, and you shall be taken away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this command to you as being my covenant with Levi, said Yahovah of hosts. My covenant with him was life and peace, and I gave them to him to fear. Fear is bringing to constant attention. We really have to redefine the mindset from our East Greek mindset to the Hebrew mindset on just definitions of words. If fear is the beginning of knowledge, fear of the Father then is to always bring Him to constant attention in all your behavior, all your speech, all your actions, to think of Him first is really going to put you in a better. Now he's not this big old mean God of the Old Testament that Marcion described. You know, it's a different understanding. But that indoctrination is so thick, and it's a hard wall to break through. Yes, Paul?
To reverence, to show him respect and honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the esteem, absolutely. I gave them to him to fear, and he feared me and stood in awe of my name. Again, not my title, not just the Creator, not just God, but the name of Yahovah. The Torah of truth was in his mouth, and unrighteousness was not found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and straightness, and turned many away from crookedness. For the lips of a priest should guard knowledge, and they seek the Torah from his mouth. For he is the messenger of Yahovah of hosts. That speaks so loudly. He's calling us to be the priests, which makes us, by default, the messenger of Yahovah. We are to be the priests of our home. We're supposed to represent him and bring him constantly to mind wherever we go and whatever we do. Because where is the Father's voice unless he is using us? You know, he is that quietness that is there. He's big enough and strong enough to be silent and let things happen because he's in control. It's going to work his way. Now, if you want to join the club and be part of it, there's a lot, you know, life in peace comes with that. The life I lived prior to walking Torah, I don't recognize now, and it's embarrassing, and I'm ashamed because of it. But this, what is offered, I mean, that's really the desire to reach out to the wicked, to reach out to even those. I think the hardest part, when I was in that world, you know, the addictions are a very easy thing to stumble into. And my head went in 40 different directions. I'm not sure which one I wanted to say, and now I kind of forgot. But the idea of the peace that you can have now, to reach out to the wicked. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I think the hardest person to reach concerning an addiction is somebody who can manage it. We have a world full of people who are not in a personal relationship with the Father, but are living just fine, have great lives, have a lot of material possessions, and have a wonderful life. And they're the hardest ones to reach. I mean, you have the righteous, you have the wicked, and there's the intermediary. And the intermediary that are blessed in their terms because of materialism, that's the majority of the American population. I mean, America is a blessed nation. It's exactly. You're exactly right. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Yeah, Dale?
May I point something out?
Absolutely.
That, you see right here, Malachi say, "O priest, this command is for you."
Mm-hmm.
This Malachi is talking to the priest of Yahovah.
Right.
Yahweh. It's not that Christian religion hadn't even been thought about, or even.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm applying to us who are.
The feast and everything he's talking about here was that they were changing the feast of Elohim and saying that this is what you do, when in all actuality they were doing the wrong thing, and that's why he's condemned.
Well, and that's what I mean. And today, Christmas stinks, you know, because you can see they think they're doing it for the Father, but it's not his feast. There's.
Even his own people right here.
That's a good point. You're right.
And went to sliver, all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yes, in the idea that we are priests, you try and make it personal, and like Dale's pointing out, you really have to understand the history and know what's going on. I didn't mean to gloss over that. Thank you for pointing that out. So this is the heart of the portion, or what I saw. I mean, there's so many stories in here. We kind of know it. We read it. I was kind of skipping that. I'm going right to the point of the battle and the struggle has been shown to us over and over. This is the Barakah, the blessing that the Father wants to bestow for the seed and for the land. And he's giving us different examples of the patriarchs' lives, of what's gone on. We're only 25 chapters, well, I guess a little farther, up to 28 chapters into this book, and now we've started to see this pattern happen over and over. If you pay attention, if you dig in a little bit, there is so much to be learned. And it is the Father who has determined the sifting process, with the result, the goal of being his chosen people, a royal priesthood, which comes with that responsibility. It's not to be fat and happy. That's just a benefit of it. You know, the whole point is to get out there and fight for his family. Terah, the father of Avram, left his land to go to Canaan, but he didn't finish the journey. This is in Genesis 11:31 to 32. So he was called to go to Canaan, but he didn't make it. Abram then takes up the call. Abram was called out from that land and from his father's house to what Yahovah would show him, and he listened. And he was 75 years old then, but he changed his life. He listened to the Father. He left his father's household. I'm going to flip back to Genesis 12. And Yahovah said to Abram, "Go yourself out of your land, from your relatives and from your father's house, to a land which I will show you. And I will make you a great nation and bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you, and in you all the clans of the land shall be blessed." So Abram left, as Yahovah commanded him, and Lot went with him. That's always just made me wonder. Okay, so what's it say? Go yourself out of your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house. And now Lot's tagging along, and we know how beneficial that was, but it's really beneficial for us in these stories. It's this sifting process. Yeah, he was to leave his father's house and his relatives at the beginning of chapter 12. Why did Lot go with them? And then once we get a little farther in 13:9, is not all the land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I go to the left. They had both grown in prosperity to where they needed wider space to continue to be prosperous. So they were going to split up. That was the reasoning that was going on right here. But if you recall, the requirement was to leave your relatives and leave your father's house. So once this happens in 13:14, and after Lot had separated from him, Yahovah said to Abram, "Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see I shall give to you and your seed forever." There's the seed and there's the land. It didn't happen while Lot was with them. He was doing what he thought was right. I mean, again, it is hard to leave family. It is hard to follow, but it is Abraham. This is our example. He left what he understood and knew. I'll just keep going. Here's the covenant promise, but look what Avram had to obey. He voluntarily obeyed the process of separating the physical for the spiritual. He didn't know where he was going. All he understood up to that point was his father's house, where he had been living. But with the Creator speaking to him, or with developing that relationship, that trust is grown by obedience, and that is why we do what we do. The obedience shows our trust and our faith. Show me your works by your faith. I always get these mixed up when I'm not reading them, but you know which one I'm talking about in James, I believe. He let God be God by becoming the person God wanted him to be. So until he actually did what God said and let God be God, now he's developed and grown, and here comes that blessing. We can't do it on our terms and demand the results when there was reasoning given behind them. There's behavior and choices. The act of doing this is Hebrew, Ivri, one from beyond. Now, this is Avram who did this. And the one who had escaped came, this is 14:13. I didn't have the number there, but yeah. This is Genesis 14:13. And the one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they had a covenant with Abram. It's recognized that he was different. He is called here Abram the Hebrew. This is the first use of the word Hebrew. And its meaning is one from beyond, one that has crossed over, there's a change that has happened. And not only is it internal, but there's an outward appearance that others start to recognize. I just recently went home for a family visit, and there's a lot of people who have seen where I used to be and where I am now, and it's kind of unrecognizable, a lot of it, which I'm proud of, because it's only the Father who did this to me. When I was in charge of my life, it was a mess. And that's the whole thing. I acknowledge, being able to manage a situation. Once you get to the point where you understand you can't manage it, let God be God, start doing what he says, now you're on that growth process. In the process of separating, Avram became something he had not known before. He became Avraham. He had to listen to the Father to become something new. He couldn't do it on his own. He left his father, his nephew, finally, and even his son, Yishmael. Yahovah chose Yitzchak for the covenant. Avram had a son, but Yitzchak was Avraham's son. You know, we know the stories. There was an involvement, and they waited, and they thought this was the right way to do it. But now, Yishmael and Yitzchak, the brothers, same father, different mothers, had to also go through this process of separation and refinement. The promise given to Yitzchak wasn't understood by him as a burden until his sons were born. As far as Yitzchak knew, when he was just born to Abraham, the other brother was already put out, given gifts, and sent away, and he didn't see the struggle or the separation that had to go on there. It was just, he was the promised seed. He was his father's son, and it was a blessing. Well, now his wife's pregnant, there's twins, and maybe he doesn't understand how this blessing is going to continue to work. There's a lot of commentary on whether he was told about the blessing, whether he knew or not, what Rivka made him privy to. And what was his process if he understood the idea of the seed in the land? Did he think both his sons could have it? You know, there's a lot going on here that just takes a lot of thought. So here, even this, as he's going to find out, this closer relationship, twins also have to be sifted. This process is from the Father, and the plan is his, and we have to be open and responsive to sticking truly to him to receive the full blessing. Each time the struggle is played out, it gets closer and closer to home. So it was Abram leaving his father's family and relatives. Then it was two brothers. Now it's twins. It's getting real close to personal. Esau is Edom, picture of the first Adam. That was just, we're privileged to see their choices played out, not for entertainment, but for our education. You have to really look at these stories and some of the details, not only on what the story is telling you, but what does the story mean? What's being revealed when these people are going through this process? And so Yaakov's chosen, but the next battle, it's internal with Yaakov. What's going to be the lesson? What is Yaakov going to have to go through? He has a new identity to assume, to become Yisrael. That is what we want to be. That is who we want to graft into. We want to become Yisrael also. But when you see these struggles and what it costs the people, and to follow truly what the Father wants for us, the blessing is just, it's too important to let go or let things in your own life get in the way. Keep your eyes focused on what this really, the blessing really is, the seed in the land, becoming Israel as a nation of his people. That's how we graft together. That's how we get along.
And that's why those scriptures in the second writing in Romans are so important, because even if you're not in that physical line, so it works both ways. So if you're in that physical line, you may not be the seed. And if you're not in that physical line, you can still be the seed.
Right.
And that's why that's so amazing.
Seed produces like kind.
Right.
So if we do what Abraham did, if we do what the patriarchs did, we are like Abraham. Therefore, we are the seed. Yeah, and Yeshua, the main focus. Where does this lead us? You cannot escape this challenge laid before you. Yes, John.
Isaac was supposedly a righteous man, and Jacob studied Torah under Isaac. So why, other than the food factor, why would Isaac favor Esau over Jacob when Isaac knew that Jacob was a godly man who was learning Torah?
Well, according to what it said, it was his stomach. He liked his venison. He liked the hunting. It was a physical pleasure.
Tell the difference.
You can't.
Now apply this to yourself.
You can't know
Is there something in your life that is strictly a physical thing that is preventing that spiritual blessing in your life? You know, it's just that simple. It's easy to look at them and fix their problems, but this Torah is a mirror. We are to look at it, see these stories, and look at ourselves and examine. And I think the reason this lesson comes in all these layers is it's like the refiner's gold. 7 times? You know, the idea of it's a refining process again and again and again. That's why I was trying to show that it was Abraham and his household. And then inside that household is 2 brothers. And then inside that mother is 2 twins. And then inside one of those twins is 2 characters. You know, we know as Yaakov, as he is behaving the way he's supposed to be, he's called Yisrael. As he's behaving in the flesh, he's called Yaakov. Yeah. So.
Well, and Scripture doesn't really give us any other reason, so we really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's like a heart thing. I don't think you could.
Absolutely. And that's the.
You love who you love, you know? That's
Mm-hmm.
the heart wants what the heart wants.
If God is to be God in your life, do you recognize the process you are in by consciously becoming who He wants you to be? I mean, this applies to all of us. If He really is God, are there things that He's requiring that we're not ready to let go of yet? And that's okay. We all walk at a different pace. But to just acknowledge there's things in the way, and that's what you need to be working on. I mean, the Father is life and blessings. Do not get tripped up. This internal battle now is dying to self. And we have an example who did it perfectly and is who is here to fight with you from the depths of your soul, our Messiah. We have the example he's written of in the second writings. He is the Father's word in perfection, to follow, to understand, to forgive, to allow us our imperfections. But this battle, now the choice is up to you. Like, really, where do you stand on this, and how much are you going to dig within yourself? Remember the 20 years that he earnestly sought to have children. I mean, he could have given up after 5 years, after 10 years, but he understood what the Father said in that promise, and he counted on it. That word will not return unfulfilled. And the battle is already won. So that's the whole concept. Do not forget how this ends. And your actions, by your own choice, your Yetzer Hara, your Yetzer Tov, are going to be what camp you end up in. But the righteous, the priests, we're here to represent the Father, and we have to fight for those who don't even have this understanding. I mean, one, we have to gain this understanding. We have to work on ourselves, and now we have to love our neighbor by teaching them to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind first. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go teach your neighbor to love God with all their heart, their soul, and their mind. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay, any questions or comments? Yes, Deb.
I was really interesting what you brought out about Lot leaving with Abraham.
It's always bugged me.
I think that Lot wanted to be like Abraham. I think he had a desire to serve Yahweh, but never really could quite get there.
Yeah.
Because there were blessings for him too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like he had like all the best intentions, but never really did fully commit his life.
Right.
And that was the thing about him, and that was when Abraham's like, okay, like, you know, we need to say, you're not there yet, man. Like, we gotta separate.
Yeah.
It was like he was on the coattails.
Right.
Yeah. It said when Tarak, when Abraham's father left, it said Lot went with him. You know, so he was just part of that family. But when you look at what the father asked to leave that,
But I think he wanted to. You know, like I think his heart was to serve Yahweh, but just.
But it was Abraham's call to do what the father wanted. And that's what I mean. I think it's a perfect example of, I grew up with him. He looks up to me. I have to take care of this person. I can't just let them go, you know. So look at the patience of the Father. No, you're going to let him go, but I'll allow you time to do it to where you think, you know, they were both prosperous. They both chose to separate. So for Abraham, that was a much easier pill to swallow than to think there was an abandonment issue or that, you know, and I think we all reach those things. We fight and struggle for our family members, for our friends, people that we want to understand this and the concept of eternity with the Father to be a blessing to all those around us. Why don't they get it? And then at some point, you're okay with it, I guess. I don't know. I mean, obviously we want to fight and choose for all of them to be part of the Father's family. Or not that you're okay with it, but you're okay that, okay, you did what you can do. You planted that seed. Now let somebody else water it. Now let somebody else, just to let things be. The Father is in control. Yeah, Angie.
Two things struck me. We talk about how Abraham had so much faith, how he answered the call and he went out. Sometimes it's so easy to underestimate what that took, because he wasn't just out wandering around going, where shall I go next? It was a very pagan world at that time. And, everything was a god at that time, according to all the pagan rituals and cults. And he made a decision that he was going to seek Yehovah. And he was willing to lay down everything he had to seek him with all his heart, soul, and mind. And that's what we're required to do. So you think about the guts, for lack of a better word, it took for him to leave his father and to go out. Right. It was, and I just can't. Sometimes we underestimate. I grew up thinking he was just wandering around, and oh yes, okay, there's Yehovah. Okay, what'd you say? I follow you. But the insurmountable odds that he had to overcome to step out of a safe place into a world that he knew nothing about, to follow a God that nobody knew anything about, for the most part. And it's pretty amazing, that step of faith. Yeah. The other was when Rivka couldn't understand why the children were struggling in her. It says in verse 22, chapter 25, she went to ask Yehovah. Mm-hmm. To have that relationship, when you have a question, a concern, you just go straight to your Father.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. That really and what happened? He answered her.
Yes.
So many times we go to books, or we Google it, or we go wherever somebody else's opinion. She went straight to Yahweh, mm-hmm. to ask him, and he was there for her and answered. What a relationship.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's so much to learn from these stories, but there's so much information, and even in these portions to glaze over, because we think we know it, and then you miss that little stuff. But I really encourage you, find a way to dig into the Hebrew a little bit. It goes way beyond the English, and it really helps you out for that understanding. Does anybody else have any comments? Jonathan.
How old was Lot when Abram left?
I don't know. I forget if it's written.
They were closer in age. I mean, closer than what we think. We think, like, for some reason have made us believe, but because Sarah was 10 years younger than him, mm-hmm. and Lot was older than Sarah, which was his sister.
Yeah.
I remember reading that, but okay.
They were closer to age than what we think.
Yeah.
But back to what Devin was saying, I don't think that Abram took him with him. It says that Lot just went with them.
Right, but he didn't stop him. He knew what was required of him. And again, it pulls on your heartstrings. How many things do we go through that, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but maybe this will work this way anyways. And it's going to work. It's just do you have all the time it takes to get back to the original plan?
And not only that, not only Lot, but we know like so many other people left with him. And I think in Genesis 12, he said all the souls that were with him. It's just because they saw what Yahweh was doing through the life of Abraham, that they wanted part of that as well. So they make that decision, yes, we want to follow. It's the same with these other nations that follow Israel through the wilderness after all the things that they saw in Egypt. Yeah, it wasn't just the Israelites, it was all these nations around that. It's like, we are going to go with that God because look everything that he has done.
And just that message itself, to look out into, did you want to say, Dale? Go ahead.
I just said that makes them only Israel.
Oh yeah, they became, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
And they didn't, and so when they went out with him, it's not that Yahweh was like, go be all by yourself, like no wife, no kids, no nothing. He wasn't to go out all by himself. Those people were called by Abraham's name. They were part of his household.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like,
and
you go out, like your household,
Yeah, the semantics there of leave your father's household and your relatives. there's a little
So that
clue
you
of
can, like, rise
just
up
because
out of
it's a
the
blood brother does not mean you're really brothers. Who are my brothers and sisters except for who does the will of my father? Mother and brothers. But yeah. There's so, and again, there's so many things that you can think about and apply to yourself, and really, and to look at that process. What really, this journey is just starting. Now we got Yaakov coming up next week, and to see what he's going to go through and the struggles he's going to do. We know where it's headed, but to really pay attention to these details, that's the whole idea. Is every year you learn a little more in the cycle. Can't wait for the eternity to get to study under the righteous teacher. Anyone else, or we'll just move on and close? Moshe?
Yeah, just one more thing about David was 1 Samuel 16:12.
16:12.
Yes.
There you go. I stand corrected. That's fine. Thanks.
You say 15, 16:12. You were close.
Battle is won. Okay, the repetition of the Shema. Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. Amen.
Can you be seated? Can we be seated?
Yeah, be seated. Turn that off.
Join us in the blessing over the wine.
Blessed are you, Jehovah, Elohim, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
And over the bread.
Blessed are you, Jehovah, Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
And taking bread, giving thanks, he broke it and gave to them, saying, This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
I have set watchmen on your walls, O Yerushalayim, all the day and all the night, continually, who are not silent. You who remember Yehovah, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he establishes, until he makes Yerushalayim a praise in the earth. Yeshua, we come to you. Thank you for all you've done for us. Thank you for Israel, your chosen people, that you will bring us back in due time to your glorious land, so there will only be peace and justice through your Torah and your will. Through the Yeshua will be reigning over us and ruling over us. Lord, be with Israel, all its 8,904,000 people, and be with the Jews there as they repel those who wish to throw them into the sea, and be with the Jews in Europe and in the United States as the ugly head of anti-Semitism is now growing. Especially be with the Jews in Great Britain, France, and in Nazi Germany, and give them a way to come to the land of Israel. Lord, be with us, give us health, mercies, and driving mercies, and watch over us. Protect us from the flu as the temperatures will now bounce up and down from 80s to 30s to 80s again, and watch over us. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the Aaronic benediction. Don't we go?
This was an older slide. It said we had trouble with the flash drive, and
We can just
years
use it.
of our services are gone.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.
Amen.
Amen. In this way they are to put my name on the children of Israel, so that I will bless them.
Amen.
Number
Amen.
627.
Amen.
We have this is